Am I audible? Am I visible to all of you? There's a major tech issue. I'm so sorry. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Sorry. A minor issue. We were not able to start at 3. We'll make up for that by not taking a break. Don't worry. But yeah. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You have not missed anything. General tech issue. We were not able to go live. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I hope you enjoyed the extended break itself. Had a good lunch. We were trying to figure it out here. I think finally we have been able to. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We'll give it 2-3 minutes and then we'll start. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. There was no way to inform you. If not, I would have informed you. We had to start at 3:10ish. Sorry, 2:10ish. No issues. Happens. Good afternoon. I hope you were able to watch the video which Sarmat sir had recorded, or rather he went live with, which is 370. Great. Okay, so we finish module number 2, wherein we have to now discuss 2 topics, which is Pondicherry and Goa, because they were not liberated. So module number 1. Then we'll talk about official language controversy. And the last topic is going to be linguistic reorganization, and thereafter reorganization generally, which is the other phases, tribal and all. We'll discuss all of this here. So can we say that confidence of the people harassing was transferred to? Yes, Anant, totally. Okay, so if you remember, what we've done in module number 1 is the first major challenge, which is partition. Then the second major one was basically the concept of colonial institutions. Thereafter, we went to the third one, which is the concept of the idea rather of economic crisis. And the fourth was integration of princely states. Integration of princely states. Now, when we talk about integration, there were 2 more areas which were not taken in because they were Azhar, stay away from that book. Too many mistakes. Then we have a Goa and Pondicherry, now called Puducherry after renaming. This is the Portuguese and the French. Now, when we talk about the Portuguese and the French generally, let's talk about Goa first. You have not missed anything till this point. We had a tech issue. We started just 5 minutes before. So I hope that it's okay. We'll make up for that by not taking a break. We have to go till what, 5:40, or rather, yes, we have to go till 5:30. We'll easily manage that way. Okay. That is why as they're asking you to stay away. It's too extensive for GS level itself. Now, when we talk about Goa, the story of Goa is very simple. Goa, when the Indian government asked for Goa, the Indian government was told from the Portuguese that when there was no British India, we existed, and in a way, Goa was ruled since 1510. In 1529 becomes the capital, and till 1947, it had been under the Portuguese. So the Portuguese said that Goa was part of the Portuguese Empire when neither the British existed, neither the government of India, which is British government, had existed. So therefore, the argument was that you have no modus operandi asking for it. But we were very clear in saying that at the end of the day, you are a colonial body, or it's a colony of you, and you should give it up in 1947. It is not the era of colonialism. It should be democratic. However, Lisbon, which is Portuguese, did not agree. And what we did was we had a systematic way of creating pressure. So first we had removed all diplomatic channels with Goa and with the Portuguese. So the Lisbon High Commission was closed. There was a movement which was rising in Goa, where people wanted to part of India, but the Portuguese kept that down. Then what we did was that the Portuguese were very simply trading with India from Goa. So we created an economic blockade saying that you cannot act like you are just part of India. We will not allow you to trade freely, and you have to either give it to us or you claim it as a part of Portugal itself. And what the Portuguese were doing is that they were not giving the Goans proper European citizenship. They were giving them second-hand citizenship in which there were multiple restrictions. And therefore, the economic blockade created a lot of pressure. Then India started to contemplate a military action when the Portuguese started to become aggressive. So even before Goa was liberated in 1954 itself, in Daman and Diu and Dadar and Nagar Haveli, what happens is that they very simply were very quick in in going for a people's movement, and the Congress and the different, what we call as Daman and Diu Congress, very quickly asked the Indian government to intervene and take it. But the Goan story starts when close to 3,000 people went protesting to the Goan border, where they wanted to show solidarity with the people who wanted to be part of India. But the Portuguese fired upon these 3,000 people, and close to 30 people were dead. Now, India said that you can't fire upon into the Maharashtra sector because that is an act of war. And the last straw in this, the last nail in the coffin, comes in 1961, when the Portuguese fired upon a ship which was plying between Cochin and a small colony, or a small island of Goa, which was also with the Portuguese. Once the Portuguese start to fire upon or do any form of aggression, it is an act of war. And in 1961, under Operation Vijay, we sent our troops into Goa and liberated Goa. And after 1510, after close to 450 years of rule, in 1961, the Goan sector became a part of India, and Goa was liberated. So therefore, the Goa story is about creating pressure. Since 1950 itself, we started to negotiate, but the Portuguese were very clear to say that this is a colony, since neither the British India existed. And in 1953, we stopped the diplomatic mission with Lisbon. Thereafter, by 1954, we were imposing travel restrictions between Goa and India. Economic blockades were created. And in 1955, an unarmed crowd of Indians was fired upon by the Portuguese police, in turn leading to 30 civilians killed. Thereafter, by 1954, there was a proper Azad Gomantak Dal which was rising in Daman and Diu and Dadar Nagar Haveli, which will basically become the reason for their liberation. Thereafter, we will start to then create even more diplomatic pressure, and military action was contemplated. And in 1961, on 24th November, when a passenger boat between the Amadiv Islands and Kochi was attacked upon by the Portuguese, which led to one death, India said enough is enough, and Operation Vijay was initiated, and the Portuguese were removed through military action. So the Goan story again is military action. However, the Portuguese were never going to give us India again, never going to give us Goa as it is. The Pondicherry story is a little bit different and a very interesting in that sense. When we talk about Pondicherry, Pondicherry is a little bit different. Goa is okay. Pondicherry is a very interesting story. Military action means that we use the military to get liberation. Are we clear about Goa? Yes. Okay. Now let's talk about Pondicherry. When we talk about Pondicherry, what we understand out of it is very interesting thing, which is that we sent a person called Jerome de Souza to the French, and the French said that okay, if you want Pondicherry, go for a referendum in 1950. But Patel and Nehru both understood that if we go for a referendum in Pondicherry in 1950, would it be in favor of India or France? India or France? It would be in the favor of France, because people would think they will get French citizenship. There would be a very big lollipop which would be there that you will become French, you will become French. So what Patel and Nehru did was they said that let it be. We don't want to go for a referendum. Let Pondicherry be a standard colony of the French. And both Patel and Nehru understood that over a period of time, the French will start to discriminate. And when they will start to discriminate, the people will get to know that what is the real picture. And therefore, what happens is that in France, standard, what we call as double standards came in. Double standard came in. And with double standards itself, one thing was very clear, that the people will start to change. And when the people start to change, what happens is that by 1955-56, people wanted to be a part of India. People wanted to be part of India. Now, very simply, what will happen is that the communes, which are the local governments, the local governments of the French, which were there in India, in Pondicherry, they will say that we want to go for a referendum. And they will go for a referendum in 1956. And in that overwhelming majority out of 178, 170 will say we want to be part of India, because they were seeing the double standard itself. And the French government is going to ratify it in 1962. And this was the second foreign territory which was taken, and the last colonial power giving us. What is the double standard? Double standard is not full citizenship, not allowing them to travel freely to France, not giving all the rights, no fundamental rights, civil liberties are not given. So the Pondicherry story tells us how India remained patient in certain issues. So our patience paid off, wherein we have Jerome de Souza, who negotiated with the French authorities in Pondicherry. Thereafter, we have held a referendum in the territories regarding political status. Thereafter, the result was referendum maybe not in favor of India. So we said that it's okay, let it be. And what will happen is parallelly people within the Pondicherry sector will ask for Indian citizenship itself. And on 18th March 1954, they will go for an idea that let us hold a referendum to check if the people want to be part of India or not. And 5 days later, not this is the same date, 5 days later, the fact of the matter is both Pondicherry, Karikal, Yanam, and Mahe, all of these four sectors will have at a referendum at Kizur, under which 170 members will say we want to be part of Republic of India, and the French Parliament will ratify this by May of 1962, thereby completing our first module and our first story, which is basically the concept of what we call as immediate issues after independence. And we can now go to module number 2. Module number 1, Portuguese, French, integration of ministry states, partition, colonial institutions, and economic crisis. Anybody has any issue in that? I told you it is a 10-15 minute thing. Referendum means a voting. Anybody any issue? No, sir? Very good. Now, when we come to module number 2, we go into the issue of language. We go into the issue of language, wherein the idea is very simple, that India is a very ethnically diverse country. But whilst being a very ethnically diverse country, language is one thing which can change every 2 to 3 kilometers. Yes, we started Shreyas right now. There was a tech issue. We started around 2:50. Now, module number 2 is starting. I hope everybody is with me in that sense. Now, language, when we talk about, every 10 to 15 kilometers, what happens is that we have change in dialect. The same word can be pronounced in different ways in two different villages, and that was linguistically India is quite diverse. And in a situation where you get independence from colonial rule, language can become an issue. Language manifested itself in two ways. The language issue manifested itself in two ways. One is called official language controversy, and the second one is called the reorganization of India. And we will start with this, which is official language controversy. Everyone's ready? No issues? All clear? Still people joining in? I understand that. Can we start? Official language controversy. Yes? Okay. Now. What is the national language of India? What is the national language of India? No national language, nothing, don't have, none. Hindi, only official languages. None, no national language, but use Hindi, English, no national language. No. We have 22 national languages. All 8th scheduled languages are national languages. You will type it online, it will say 0. But actually, when it came to language, the Constituent Assembly was very smart. They said that if we will talk about what we call as Rashtra Bhasha, there is not one, not two, initially 15, over the years has become 22. Meaning all these 22 languages are the national languages of India. This was the master stroke which the Constituent Assembly did. The Constituent Assembly knew that if we will start to say that there is one language which is national language, it will automatically be a lie. And can I say that there is one language which can be spoken and understood across India from rural to urban sector? Initially 5, then 22, yes. Initially 15 were there, then over a period of time we added 22. No, Shreyas, Hindi is not a language which can be understood everywhere. From Jammu and Kashmir Valley to Arunachal Pradesh to Gujarat, Kutch to Kanyakumari, everywhere, rural to urban, Hindi will be understood. There's no language, neither English is that capable. There is no language in India which can be spoken from tip to tip, rural to urban. Urban areas, maybe in the northern sector, can speak, understand Hindi, but even in Gujarat, in MP, in Rajasthan, in parts of West Bengal, in whole of Northeast, Hindi will not be understood in the rural or the once you exit the urban areas. And that is what the Constituent Assembly also understood, that there is no one language which can actually do it. All 22 national languages are there because no one language can put the status of national language or can have the status of national language. So there's no one language in South India, there's no one language in North India, there's no one language across India itself. So this issue was killed very quickly by the Constituent Assembly, that 22 languages, all of them, 15 were there initially in the constitution, then later we've amended to add them. But the basic point is, today, as we speak in 2023, 22 national languages we have. Acceptable? If you don't know it, now you know it. Clear? National language is just a honorary position which you give to a language, and there's no actual benefit other than the fact that 8 scheduled languages you can use in UPSC now. So that Indian language paper which you see, you can actually give the Indian language paper in any of the 22 languages. So when somebody asks you what is the national language of India, there's no 1, there's no 2, there's 22. Are we clear about this? Are we clear about this national language? Yes. Okay. Thereafter, we have the issue of official. National language, we have 22. Official language. Scheduled languages are because in the 8th schedule, that is why they call the scheduled languages. Those are also recognized as the national language. National language is a honorary position given to languages, which is that this is the national language. Issue killed automatically. Now we come to official language. Now official language is an issue. Because you cannot have multiple languages as official language. The British use their official language as English, and that is why this is an issue for us generally, because we did not want to use English when we became independent. Now, why can't we have 22 languages as official language? Why? Hindi is official language. Hindi and English both are official language. Why can't you have 22 languages? The issue is, in administration, in courts, in higher education, in center state and state, we cannot have multiple languages because it will create chaos. Because imagine there's a bomb threat which comes, and then we are sending to every state a different language bomb threat. Every document would then have to be translated into 22 languages. In law, as it is, language matters. And when you talk about language, if the translation changes, the meaning changes. So the Constituent Assembly has an issue. When it comes to official language, when it comes to this issue that we need an administrative language, they cannot go for 22. And they don't want to go for English, because English is the language of the colonizer. So the candidate which they had before 15th August 1947 was Hindavi or Hindustani. This was a language which was basically Urdu plus Hindi. Hindi not separately, Urdu plus Hindi. What section are we covering? We are covering official language controversy. Now, that is why you would have seen that there are multiple Urdu words in Hindi. The reason why we have so multiple words, Urdu words in Hindi, is because they come out of Hindustani. They come out of Hindustani. Now, Urdu plus Hindi is the option to the Constituent Assembly. But Urdu becomes the language of Pakistan. It becomes a national and official language. So can we now use Hindi? Why Urdu is used in Hindi? Because they both come out of a mixture of Hindi. Hindustani was the language. Now, basically, Urdu cannot be used because it is the language of succession. It is the language of partition. So now please try to understand that on 15th August 1947 and before the constitution comes into force on 26th January 1950, there's an intense debate. Hindustani has been rejected. Urdu has been rejected. English we want to avoid. So what is the language which is left for official language? What is the language is left for official language? The language which is left is Hindi. Now there's an issue. Now Hindi has an issue. Hindi issue is that it is not spoken by everyone, which is that in South, Northeast, in Western India, and in Northern India, which is Northern Himalayan sector, Himalayan India, nobody understands Hindi. So can I say it is the language of the majority? Can I say it is the language of the majority? No. It is a language which is spoken by a lot of people, but it is not the language of the majority. At the same time, Hindi also has one bigger issue. It is underdeveloped, meaning no science, no social science, no proper proper institutionalized Hindi. See, Hindi was bolchal Hindi. Hindi is bolchal Hindi. What you speak, you and me. But can an ISRO scientist learn science in bolchal Hindi? Can he do that? And the answer to that question is no. You cannot use bolchal Hindi for sciences. For sciences. So the point of the matter is that India, the issue is that Hindi needs time. First, more than 40 to 50% of the nation needs to learn it, and more than that, Hindi itself has to develop as a proper language which can be used for official and educational purposes. So if I'm in 1950, 1949, 1948, the conversation was that southern states, northeastern states, etc., were ready to learn Hindi. At the same point of time, Hindi needed to develop. So, do we understand the situation with Hindi? Do we understand the situation in Hindi? And why English needs to be incorporated? Because English everybody understood. So the conundrum is that Hindi there cannot be immediate transfer. Immediate change, immediate adoption is not possible. It's not possible. So very simply, Hindi needs time. Southern states, northeastern states are ready to learn Hindi. Immediate adoption is not possible. English incorporation is important, and Hindi needed to develop. Do we understand these points? How from we having Hindustani, Urdu, and English, and this conundrum or the issue which the Constituent Assembly have, we come to this point where we are trying to figure out what to do with Hindi. What to do with Hindi? Are we clear about this? Because then I tell you what is the constitutional compromise. What was written in the Constitution then? Yes or no? If southern states were ready, then why do you see opposition? I'll tell you. It is what happens between 1950 and 60 that everything will go backwards. Are we clear about this issue? Yes, no? Yes. Okay. Now the constitutional compromise. The constitutional compromise, which is then taken, is basically what was written in the Constitution, came into effect on 26 January 1950, which was English and Hindi will be the official language for first 15 years between 1950 to 1965, and after 1965 only Hindi will be official language. And that is why so many sections in the constitution will talk about promoting Hindi. It very simply said that Hindi is our official language, and additionally English will be there, but only for 15 years. So that in 15 years people learn and Hindi develops. Do you understand the constitutional compromise? That we give for this situation, we give 15 years. Between 1950 to 65, it is English and Hindi, and 1965 onwards, it is Hindi. Are we clear about this? Come on. Are we clear about this? What do I mean by this? Yes, this is the constitutional compromise. Reason not understood. Reason is because Hindi needs time to develop as a proper language, and most of the country needs to learn Hindi. Everybody is ready to learn Hindi because they realize that Hindi can be learned. It is not an issue. In 1960, in 1950, the spirit is we will learn Hindi and we will allow Hindi to develop. So the constitutional compromise which comes with regards to official language is that we will use Hindi English together. Then we will give up on the language of colonialism, which is 1965 onwards Hindi. Now, if you are an administrator, if you are a Hindi proponent, if you are the person who has to implement this scheme, as an administrator, as a strategist, what should be your approach? If you have to make others learn Hindi, if you have to develop Hindi properly, what should be your approach? It should be systematic, gradual, it should be quick, it should be immediate, it should be state action. What should be the basic idea? What should be the approach? It should be, okay, it should be gradual, it should be systematic. This is the approach expected. Expected approach would be slow, gradual transition to Hindi, introduce at school level, keep Hindi simple, no force or no state action. Am I right in saying this? Am I right in saying this? Yes? Why no state action? Because if you will use state action, then it will create fear. If I come to your house and tell you that to learn French, and every day a police officer comes to your house and says, learn French, would you like to learn French? State action is not a good thing. Sandhya, we're coming to that. But sir, Hindi, I'm not, don't think right now. We are in 1950s. Why Hindi, this, that, I will come to that. I'm coming to the issue, that is the controversy. Are we clear about this approach? Are we clear about this approach? This should be the expected approach. Yes. But we did not follow. The Hindi proponents did two things. In 1950, southern states and northeastern states, along with western states, All were ready to learn. But in 1950, what we did, the Hindi proponents did two things. First, they tried to push Hindi through state action and immediate adaptation, which creates suspicion and anxiety. On the other hand, the larger issue or the much bigger issue is Hindi as a language was made difficult, which is called Sanskritization. It's called Sanskritization of Hindi. Basically, which makes it very difficult to learn. Now, rather than keeping Hindi a simple, straightforward language, the Hindi proponents started to cleanse Hindi of foreign influences and started to change Hindi itself. And now, if you have ever seen academic Hindi, you would know what I mean to say. What Bolchal Hindi you speak and what you see in the newspaper is actually either English or very simple Hindi. If you will actually ever see proper Hindi, Utkrisht Hindi, you will realize what I mean to say. Try to learn physics or mathematics in Hindi. Try to learn even history in Hindi. It is quite difficult. Hindi Sahitya today is one of the most difficult language to learn and understand. What they started to do was that they started to remove basic, very simple, straightforward words and started to add Sanskrit words. Kim kartavya vimud. And they now started to make Hindi very difficult to understand only. And this is something which will basically alienate. This alienates the learner. The fact of the matter is, proper academic Hindi was very hard to understand. There was a point in which where Nehru used to listen to AIR radio and English used to understand. As soon as Hindi AIR radio used to start, he used to think that what are they saying? Coming from the Hindi belt itself, he did not understand Hindi itself. It is here that the two blunders were made. Everybody was ready to accept Hindi. These are the two blunders which were done. One blunder, which is push through state action. Second blunder, which is Sanskritize Hindi itself. By doing this, there was no way other than the fact that everybody from the northeastern state to the southern states and southern states specifically would get alienated by the whole concept itself. So till in 1951, everybody was ready to learn Hindi. It is the mistake of the Hindi proponents itself who basically messed it up. They messed it up by making Hindi too difficult and they tried to push it too much. Are we clear about this? What are the reasons why Hindi now started to become problematic? There are two reasons: Sanskritization of Hindi and the issue related to immediate adoption. They said, use state action. We need to do it right now. State action. State action is not good. Creates too much suspicion. So Hindi proponents were very, very, very fanatical when it came to their approach. And this was where everything was lost generally. Are we clear? Because when I tell you a story, how things will unfold and become what they are today, if we understand the fundamental issue. Who are these? You don't need to know the Hindi proponents. They are people who are Hindi scholars. Now, 1950, this is the compromise. 1965 is the cutoff date. And what they've done is that in between 1950 to 54, Hindi is now very difficult to understand. Very difficult to understand. And not easy to learn. Now the president appoints a very interesting commission. That commission is called the Official Languages Commission in 1956. 6 years have gone through. And in 1956, an Official Language Commission is established. The question in front of the commission is that, is Hindi ready? And the answer to that question this commission gives is yes. However, the Tamil Nadu member, and the West Bengal member both dissent, saying that this commission has a Hindi bias. Hindi is not ready. This will alienate further. And the biggest thing which will create too much of a rift is that in 1960, the President of India will do two things. He will introduce two things. One, he will introduce what is called Hindi Directorate. That was needed, which is to basically translate all official documents. This was for translation. All official documents need to be translated into Hindi. But the more dangerous thing was that the President of India said that we are considering that in UPSC, Hindi should be introduced as qualifying language. Now, if I say to you right now, as of right now, I tell you that in order to clear UPSC in 2024, you all have to qualify a paper in Mandarin language. Will you be able to do it? Will you be able to do it? What is the feeling which comes to your mind when I told you that Mandarin, if you don't qualify 25%, you will not be allowed to give mains examination? What does the feeling which comes into your mind? Anger, frustration, unfairness, partiality, and the question why, injustice. This is what goes through every South Indian non-Hindi speaker and learner and student, that how can you do this? So by 1960, alienation of southern states, and the same states which were saying in 1950 that we are ready to learn Hindi, they will say that a non-Hindi student is at a disadvantage. And it should be very, very clear. That alienation of South Indian states mean that now even if Hindi is made simple, they will not accept. And the biggest thing is going to be that in 1959, Jawaharlal Nehru will understand and he will realize that the southern states were becoming more and more alienated. So in 1959, he will give a statement that I leave the decision the decision not on the North Indian states or North Indian states, but non-Hindi states to transition. And he will introduce in 1963 what is called the Official Languages Act. But in this, he will do one small mistake, and that will alienate the southern states even more. He will say that English may continue after 1965. And the southern states will say that why did you use the word may? You should use the word shall. You should use the word shall. What is the difference between may and shall? What is the difference? What is the main difference between may and shall? May has uncertainty. Shall has certainty. I shall give you notes. I may give you notes. Are two very different things. So now the southern states become even more alienated. And when in 1965, the day 26th January comes, now the DMK in South India and specifically in Tamil Nadu will now call it a day of mourning. 6 students will self-immolate themselves, saying that we are at a disadvantage. And this trigger will also come because when in 1964, Jawaharlal Nehru will die, he will be replaced by Lal Bahadur Shastri. And Lal Bahadur Shastri was not very sensitive to this issue. And he in 1964 itself says that I am considering allowing state PCS examinations to be conducted in Hindi. Therefore, a Hindi speaker could give the UPSC also, and he could give the state PCS examination also, with the non-Hindi speaker being at a disadvantage everywhere. And that is why 6 students will self-evaluate themselves. Union property will be targeted. The fact was Lal Bahadur Shastri was not sensitive and he was already engrossed in the 65 war at this point of time. Indira Gandhi will come multiple times, the daughter of Nehru, multiple times to Madras to tell them that we will find a solution. The fact of the matter remains is that DMK, South India and the whole of southern sector, students movement had become very, very big. They said Hindi never, English ever. And now it became very clear that because of Sanskritization of Hindi and the fanatical approach, South was never going to accept Hindi. Until today, there's an issue with regards to that. Now, 1965 war will end with India's victory, but in 66, when Lal Bahadur Shastri will go for the Tashkent Agreement, he will die there. And we will get Indira Gandhi as her next prime minister. And the first thing she will do is that in 1967, she will introduce an amendment to her father's act. And that amendment to the Official Languages Act is still today in what we call as force. The 67 Act said that English will continue as long as the southern states want, and therefore we have English and Hindi as our official languages. And very simply, it introduces the 3-language policy, that in northern states, English, Hindi, and a southern language should be taught. And in the southern states, English, southern language, and Hindi should be taught. However, neither of the two followed it, and rather than introducing the third language as southern language or Hindi, they introduced French, German, Sanskrit. Until today, we have the bilingual official language of India, which is English and Hindi. Are we clear about this? How have we come to this point? And why is there issues such as in Bangalore Metro, when Hindi was written, it became a major controversy? You had a lot of doubts when we started. Now, do the doubts be clear? Perfect. Okay. So let's read this story. We'll take a break and then we'll start the reorganization chapter. One language, when it came to national language, all languages accepted. This issue was killed. British had English as their administrative language, but English and Hindi came to the fore when it comes to medium of instruction, higher education, administration, and courts. And therefore, common language in which central government would talk, there could not be multiple languages. Do you agree with the name India as Bharat? Yes, India as Bharat is written in the constitution. So what is the issue in that? India that is Bharat, Bharat that is India. Then what is the issue? Documentation is in Hindi and administration both Hindi and English. Why Hindi, not any other language? As I told you, the issue is that Hindustani had been chosen, and everybody used to say, even the Nehru report said that we will use Hindustani, which is Hindi and Urdu mix in Devanagari or Urdu language. And even Gandhi said that he will not allow English, and Nehru also echoed the same thing in 1937. The problem is that once partition happened, Urdu became the language of Pakistan, so Hindustani could not be used. The pro-Hindi people said that it is the largest number of the people understand it, can be understood in urban areas of most of the northern states. But the two language people said that Hindi is less developed and you would have to learn Hindi to fight for competitive examinations in public sector. So when it came to the point, Hindi proponent said immediate switch over. Non-Hindi said we will learn it, but give us some time. And Nehru was also in the understanding that a gradual transition was needed. Hindi will become, but let us keep English for some time. What is wrong with the government of India? English only, because English is the language of the colonizer. So, can a country have two names recognized by both? Yes, why not? The Indian constitution says India, that is Bharat, Bharat Athva India. This is the says Article 1, first line itself. So what is the issue in that? Somehow issue is being created. It is already recognized by the Constitution of India. Okay. Now in the post-partition period, Hindustani and Urdu became the sign of succession. So Hindi was now the candidate. But the time frame for the replacement was important. And therefore, Hindi in Devanagari script with international numerals would be the India's official language. India was to continue it as till 1965, when it would be replaced with Hindi. So Hindi was to be introduced in a phased manner, and after 1965, it would be the only national official language. This was the plan, but this was messed up by two things. First, contrary to our gradual approach, a very fanatical, very heavy-handed approach was taken. And second is the biggest issue, which is Sanskritization of Hindi. Hindi needed to be very easy, very straightforward, but they started to add Sanskrit words. In the name of cleansing, they started to introduce new words itself. And in the name of purity, Hindi was made into an alien language itself. Now, 1965 Official Language Commission was established. Tamil Nadu Bengal members say no. But 1960, the president says that the committee says yes. So they were now considering to make Hindi an alternative medium and a qualifying paper. And this will create more suspicion and anxiety amongst the people. Now, Nehru will in 1959 say that I leave the decision not to the people who know Hindi, but to the non-Hindi people. An official language will be introduced, remove constitutional mandate, and it said that English may continue, and the word may became the controversial aspect. And therefore, after Nehru's death, Lal Bahadur Shastri was not sensitive to this issue, and Hindi was now being considered as an alternative medium in public service examinations. This will again mean that non-Hindi speakers that do not have an advantage, and non-Hindi states would now become at a major disadvantage in that sense. And therefore, when the year of 1965 came, DMK went for an anti-Hindi conference, multiple protests, Hindi never, English ever. Students will go for agitation nationwide and in state-wise. February will lead to large-scale violence. 4 students will self-immolate themselves. 2 Tamil leaders, C. Subramaniam and Agalasen, will resign. And now close to 60 people were dead over this issue. When Indira Gandhi was the information and broadcasting minister, she will go to Madras multiple times to solve the issue. And later she will become the prime minister also. And when she will become the prime minister, on 26 November 1967, she will introduce the Official Language Amendment Act, which will in turn provide to use English as an associate language in addition to Hindi for official work at the center and communication between center state. And she also introduced the concept of three language formula: mother tongue Hindi English to be taught in southern states, and English Hindi and non-Hindi language to be taught in northern states. And therefore, this is how the official language came about. You also, do you believe in Bharat, that is India, rather than India, that is Bharat? Again, that Rahul, you are asking me a irrelevant question. This is literally, I'm making it public. What is the point of this question? That Bharat, that is India, rather than India is Bharat. Dude, what do you think? India is Bharat, Bharat is India. What is the issue here? Documentation is in Hindi in administration or in both Hindi English. UPSC paper comes in both official languages, one side English, one side Hindi. You can write the mains examination in any of the 22 languages of India. You have to qualify English and an Indian language paper. If you're from the Northeast, you don't have to do that also. You can write the whole paper in any language you want, as recognized by the 22nd. Bharat name should come first. So in the Hindi constitution, it says Bharat athva India. In the Indian English one, it says India, that is Bharat. What are you, politics you are doing? A politician. Read Article 1 in the Hindi and the English constitution. English constitution, it says India, that is Bharat. Hindi constitution, it says Bharat athva India. So what is the issue here? Which should come first? Indian should not come first. This naming should come first. Are we clear about official languages? If it is, we will take a break, come back, and then complete the story of the simple point, which is linguistic reorganization. Are we clear? Official language controversy. Do you understand why we are in this mess right now? Yes? Bharat Arthat, India, India, that is Bharat. What is the issue here? Politics is meaningless here. Okay. Yeah, name may be different. The same nation is denoted. That is true, Ananya. Okay. So let's take a breather here. Let's come back at what? 4:10. Until 5:30, we'll finish this theme also. Done? 4:10? Done. Okay. See you at 4:10. Welcome back. What is the way forward in this controversy? Nothing. English, Hindi. You really think that now anybody is going to not do politics on this? True harsh in a way. Well, Devsmita, I hope you are clearing that. West Bengal Civil Services. You mean ancient medieval art and culture, everything? दिल्ली दूरस्थ तक आ गया. They literally quoted Dilli Durast. Can you email me about this, Tesmita? I would like to see the paper once also. Have a conversation. You have my email ID. I'll just write it again. Just email me about the same, na? Abhishek.mishra 19@byju's.com. Mishra, MISHRA. MP set also. MPSC previous year. Good, Aditya. Great. I'm more astonished that they are quoting Nizamuddin Aulia in the examination. Okay, everybody's back. Can we start again? So, Desmita, you're clearing the exam. How many questions have you got correct? Prelims went well, then it means 134, 200. Very good. Perfect. Negative marking is there. And you attempted how many? Acha, you've attempted 135 and 134 135. Good enough. Very good. Very good, very good, very good, very good. So if even if your hit rate is 50-60%, you should easily clear. Great. So do keep me posted. If you need any help for mains examination, email me. If there is ancient medieval in the mains, I'll share any detail or book if needed. Last year cutoff was 133, so I don't know. No. Don't go with that. Don't go with that. You found those questions easy, Dev Smitha. Not everybody will. Dilli Duras is something which people don't have an idea about. A lot of people don't have. So never take for granted the level of the paper. So you have attempted 135 and it's a what? 135, one marker each, right? One marker each. Okay. Okay. Perfect. One marker. So do tell me if any issues needed. If anybody of you is writing, like for example, a PCS level examination, because ancient medieval doesn't come in UPSC in mains. PCS level examination, if you need any help, you can always email me. That's our ancient medieval is coming in this form. I'll tell you the book to read and you can manage it easily. Right. This much at least the least I can do, because UPSC ancient art and culture and modern comes. Ancient medieval doesn't. Ancient medieval descriptive knowledge a little bit higher you need to know. BPSC and all, sure, why not? For example, Indian Forest Service also. Ancient 25, national movement, ancient medieval 25, national movement. Okay, perfect. Now we go to the second issue of language, which is the linguistic reorganization of India. Now, what do I mean by linguistic reorganization? Now, first manifestation of issue was official language. But when the Nehru report came, there was a clause. Does anybody remember that Nehru report clause? Other than dominion, 1928, what was the clause which was talked about when it came to organization? The word was linguistic states or linguistic reorganization. Now, basically, what does linguistic reorganization mean? It means that state boundaries are based on language. Now, in India, we have not one but four reorganizations. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. The first is called linguistic reorganization. I'll be giving you a table in the end, so don't worry. The other one is called tribal reorganization. The third is called reorganization on economic imbalance. And fourth is called national security based reorganization. Now, let's discuss phase 1. Now, when we talk about phase 1, were the provinces of British India along the lines of language? Was language the principle? And the answer to this question is no. It was based on administrative convenience, and as the states or provinces were integrated. And therefore, in 1947 to 49 period, there was a question: should we reorganize India as per linguistic principle, which is, should we have states as per language? And this is the question in front of the Constituent Assembly again. Now, considering the fact that we have the Indo-Pak War, 1947, we have partition, we have an economic crisis, we have institutional issues. Does it make sense to reorganize India? Does it make sense to reorganize according to language? And as Patel and Nehru said, no. Because if we start internal reorganization, it will lead to migration, chaos, confusion, and internal security will be questioned. Will be questioned. And therefore, this is what was taken up by two committees. Dhar Commission, 1948. S.K. Dhar was the Justice S.K. Dhar. He was asked this question, that should we go for linguistic provinces? And the answer he gave was no, we should go for administrative convenience. And because there was still a lot of demands, the JVP commission will be formed, named after the four leaders or the three leaders, Jawahar, Vallabhbhai, and Patabi. Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel, and Patabi, JVP. This also said no, no linguistic province. And the answer was later maybe. And that is why in our 1947 period, internal reorganization in any way or form was not acceptable, because it would lead to internal issues as it is, and princely states had still not been integrated. So, in after Dhar Commission says that, the Linguistic Provinces Commission says that ad hoc arrangement should be basis of administrative convenience, and JVP said that the idea of reorganization on linguistic basis is too dangerous right now. The map of India, which was created in 1950, or the constitution, what it created, is something which you will read in Lakshmikant also, which is called the concept of part A, B, C, D, which is we just put the different states into different parts. Now you tell me what is common to part A. Assam, Bihar, Bombay, Madhya Pradesh, Madras, Odisha, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal. What is common to all of them? Why are they part A? What is common to all of them? These are all British provinces. Part B, Hyderabad, Jammu and Kashmir, Madhya Bharat, Mysore, Patiala, Punjab, and Rajasthan, Saurashtra, Travancore, Kochi. Very good. These are big princely states. And these are nothing but small princely states. Ajmer, Bhopal, Bilaspur, Kutch, Himachal Pradesh, Tripura, Manipur, Coorg, Delhi. And the last part D only had one, which is Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So basically what they've done is they've taken big and small princely states and they've reorganized it in this way. This was the arrangement which will be there between 1950 to 53, because by 1953 things will start to change. Are we clear about pre-independence stance and post-independence stance? Are we clear about it? Pre and post? Yes. Okay. Now comes 50-53. 1953, there will be a movement which will rise here, which was the call for an Andhra state. Lakshadweep was considered part of this, the Kerala sector itself. It was considered part of Travancore. So the demand for Andhra state became very, 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 very big, and By 1952, 19th November, 19th October, a freedom fighter, sometimes also like this Poti. This spelling is out of the Bipin Chandra book. There are 2 to 3 spellings. I know this is not the one which you will find in the other books, but it is written Poti, Patti. It is totally on the book. He is a very important freedom fighter. He will go for fast on to death for the state of Andhra. The government will not give a lot of heed, and in turn he will die because of his fast. And once that will happen, in the Andhra Pradesh sector, in the Andhra sector, there will be wide scale rioting and violence. And Andhra will be finally created. Andhra state will be finally created as the first linguistic state, with Tamil Nadu as a Tamil speaking state itself. So the first linguistic state in India is actually Andhra. Andhra state. But with giving Andhra state and Tamil Nadu this sector different identity, now the floodgates have opened. And once that happens, in 1953 itself, a new commission is established, which is called the Fazal Ali Commission. Fazal Ali Commission is going to be quite significant that way, because this will take up the question again that can linguistic provinces be there? And the answer which this commission will give is a totally different one, which is yes. Yes, we should abolish this A, B, C, D concept itself. But he gives 4 very important principles. 4 very, very important principles he will give. The first principle he gives is that if we are going for linguistic states, we cannot have the concept of one language, one state. Which means that within a state, if there are non-state language areas, we cannot remove them. Meaning, there cannot be 100% homogeneity, and that is not what is emphasized. Basically, if there is the Andhra state, if you have certain Kannada speaking, if you have the Tamil Nadu state, if you have certain Andhra speaking, you can't ask these villages to cross over. Why can't you do that? One language, one state, in a way, challenges one of the most important parts of the constitution. Why can't you do it? Why can't you do it? What does it, in a way, challenge? What does it challenge? It challenges a very specific fundamental right. It challenges the freedom of movement in India and the freedom of residing any part in India. If you call it one language, one state, then I, as a Hindi speaker, for example, Article 19 and Article 21 both will get violated. Because if I speak Hindi and I want to come to Bangalore, and it is one language, one state, then I can't. And if I can't, then it is basically going to challenge a very important fundamental right. Because fundamental right says that I can go anywhere and I can reside anywhere. So the first principle, he said that we cannot be talking about people crossing over, that if they are in the wrong state, they have to cross over. No. One language, one state cannot be followed. And he then gave 4 important factors to be kept into the consideration before forming any state. Very interestingly, he said, unity and national security of India should not be challenged. That you create a state and it is basically a threat to India itself. For example, making Rajasthan into 4 different states. 4 different CMs makes no sense. Second, he said that we will try to have as much as homogeneity as possible, but cannot be forcing homogeneity. Then comes the fact that if the welfare of the people and nation is done by creating that state, it should be done. But the most important consideration it should be financially viable and administratively viable. This is one thing which people don't talk about when they talk about statehood demands. Statehood demands can only be understood if financial and administrative considerations are taken into things. You can't create a state which is fiscally not sound. If you create, for example, out of Kerala itself, 3 states, can they survive separately with state GDP? Can they? And the answer is no, because the state GDP will get fragmented and certain area will have something, certain area will have something. Create a state which is fiscally sound. This is a very important point you need to remember. Fiscal soundness is something which is quite important. That is. Thereafter, based on the Fazal Ali Commission, the Government of India will amend the Constitution in the 7th Constitution Amendment Act, which is called the State Reorganizations Act. And Part A, B, C, D will be gone, and 14 states and 6 union territories will be formed, as you can see here. But can anybody tell me why do we need to amend the Constitution? Under Article 3 and 4, it is allowed to change the size and the name of any state. Why do we need to change? Why do we need to amend the Constitution? Why do we? Have to clear picture. Changes to Article 2, no. Why? I'm looking for a very specific clause. When do you need to change the Constitution? It's not our terminology. Not emergency. I'm looking for a word because it violates one principle. Not sovereignty. Yes, Pooja. When the federal structure and the federal principle of the Indian Constitution is touched, a constitution amendment is necessary. This would basically impact federalism. Therefore, there was a need to change the constitution itself. Now, as you can see, there are 3 to 4 issues. 1, 2, 3. 3 issues automatically emerge. 3 issues automatically emerge. Let's discuss the first issue, second issue, which is Bombay and Gujarat. Bombay and Gujarat, Fazal Ali Commission wanted to create 2 states. One Gujarati speaking, one Marathi speaking. But the issue became Bombay city, or what we call as Mumbai. Both wanted Mumbai as the capital. And the government said that, okay, if you both want capital, we'll make it into a UT and make it the joint capital of Gujarat and Maharashtra. But what is the issue? Why would both Gujarat and Maharashtra reject the idea of making Mumbai a UT? What is the issue in that? What is the issue? The issue is Mumbai is the financial capital of India. If it becomes a UT, the revenue goes to the center. So the state GDP of both these states would be impacted. And therefore, neither wanted to give up Bombay city. And that is why in 1956, when this act comes through, this issue is not resolved. And this issue will not be resolved till 1960, because between 1956 to 1960, there will be multiple protests in Maharashtra and Gujarat over the issue of Bombay. And it is only when the Congress will start to lose the municipal elections and the seats in this area that finally a call will be taken that we will give Mumbai to Bombay, Bombay or Mumbai to Maharashtra, and the interim capital of The Gujarat sector is going to be Ahmedabad, with a state grant for a new capital called Gandhinagar from the center. And therefore, the first issue is only resolved by May of 1960, when there will be bifurcation, with Gujarat getting a new capital grant itself. So the Gujarat Maharashtra issue will be sorted in 1960. The last major linguistic reorganization was 1966, wherein we know Goa and Pondicherry were added, wherein the Punjab and Haryana sector were created. Punjab is Gurumukhi, Haryana is Hindi, and Himachal Pradesh is tribal. So in 1966, based on Akali politics and a lot of violence which was happening, 3 states will be created out of this area: Punjab, Haryana, and Himachal Pradesh, with Chandigarh as the joint capital of Punjab and Haryana. So when we talk about the first phase of reorganization, it's called phase 1. It's called the linguistic reorganization. In the examination, please pay attention to what or reorganization it is saying. If it is saying linguistic reorganization, it is only this. If it says only reorganization, it means all 4 phases. So linguistic reorganization between 1947 to 1966, and the principal was language. Here 3 commissions: Dhar Commission, you have SK Dhar, JVP Commission, and the Fazal Ali Commission. First state is going to be Andhra. Last state is Punjab, Haryana, and Himachal. And here language was consideration for conflict. Are we clear about first phase? Anybody has any issue here? Can you remember this much? And can you write a question if they ask you what is the linguistic reorganization of India, which is the pre-independent stance, the issue at moment of independence, and post-independent stance? Will you be able to write this? Himachal Pradesh, because tribal areas did not speak Hindi or English, they had their own languages, and further tribal areas, so they wanted to remove it. Are we clear about these 3? Because then I want to discuss the second very interesting one. How do we write introduction? In the introduction, the pre-independent stance will go. In the body, these things will go. Okay, now pre-independent stances, we will have Nehru Report, 1928 itself, linguistic boundaries. Thereafter, we change it to administrative convenience. Now, phase 2 is basically tribal reorganization. And under this, northeastern India was reorganized. Assam identity. Does the Assamese identity do justice to all the tribes in Northeast? Nagaland. Nagaland was even 1960, 66. But this mostly happens between 1970 to 80, which is Meghalaya, Manipur, Tripura, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, and this Sikkim sector. Sikkim I'm going to come to. So when we talk about tribal reorganization, Nagaland is the first one, and by the time, one second, Nagaland should be 63. Nagaland was the first one, and between 1970 to 80, the whole of the seven sisters will come into existence. Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Arunachal, Assam. But there is a very interesting story behind Sikkim. Can I tell you about Sikkim? What is the story of Sikkim? You have heard it previously also. I just want to reiterate. Sikkim story is very simple. Sikkim was a princely state. The British kept it as a princely state itself. When they were fighting in this sector, they will give Sikkim the princely state idea. And when it will come to India's independence, at the moment of independence, in Sikkim, there was a person called Chogyal. Personally, it's the title. This is the kings of Sikkim are called Chogyal. And the dynasty which was ruling was called the Namgyal dynasty. Now, when it came to India's independence, Nehru and Patel saw that Sikkim was a princely state and Sikkim wanted to be a protectorate of India. And we accepted it, which is that Sikkim can remain a protectorate. Protectorate would mean that it had internal freedom, except for defense, communication, and external affairs. Everything was managed by Sikkim itself. But there was also the Sikkim Congress, which was emerging. And this Sikkim Congress wanted, so what is called Sikkim State Congress, wanted to be part of India. The Chogyals did not like the fact that how there was a faction which was emerging vis-a-vis becoming part of India. So the Sikkim National Party was formed, which was basically a party formed by the Chogyals itself to counter the Sikkim Congress itself. Between 1947 to 1960-70, India, the Sikkim sector remained a protectorate of India. We took only calls on external security. But over this period, a major issue emerged that Sikkim became an hotspot for the CIA. The Central Intelligence Agency of the USA, CIA, started to use Sikkim to spy on both China and India. And they used to use this protectorate status quite a lot. So what happens is that in 1970 to 75 period, Indira Gandhi did not like the fact that Sikkim was being used for spying on India and basically anti-India activity by the US. And therefore, in 1975, Sikkim Congress and Sikkim National Party was also clashing over the fact that they wanted to be part of India. There will be a state action in which the Sikkim Congress will see repression, and a plebiscite will be held in 1975. A referendum will be held in 1975. After Indira Gandhi will say that we need to take a call on this on concept of protectorate, and through that, 97% of the population will say they want to be part of India. And in 1975, last territory to get added into India is Sikkim, which is 1975. So it's all the Chogyal, Sikkim Congress, Sikkim National Party understanding. In Sikkim itself, there's a different understanding. The official line is different, but we will go with what Government of India argues, which is Sikkim Congress, Sikkim National Party clashes, and the CIA issue with the US spying on India and China, both from Sikkim, and Indira Gandhi, therefore, 1975 takes a call and adds Sikkim into India. So the second phase is very simply based on the tribal reorganization, the Northeast Reorganization Act of 1971. Multiple states will be first created as sub-states and UTs and then given statehood. So do we understand the principle of tribal reorganization? You cannot get one specific question on tribal reorganization. They will either ask you linguistic reorganization or all four. Can we talk about phase 2 and phase 3? Or rather 3 and 4? Yes. Now the phase 3 and 4 is based on a very interesting principle. 3 and 4. Phase 3 and phase 4. Phase 3 is called reorganization on the basis of regional imbalance. And the concept here is UP, MP, Bihar, and Andhra Pradesh. All three gave in the 2000, 2000, 2000, 2014. Uttarakhand, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, and Telangana. All were based on the principle that regional imbalance and issues were emerging. Between these regions, and the fact was that they were not getting justice. All of these states were created because these states areas were going backward. In UP, MP, Bihar, and Andhra Pradesh, these areas were not getting justice vis-a-vis number of seats, and their agenda was not pushed, and therefore they were becoming more and more backward. And regional imbalance was therefore used as a pretext for the last time in 2014 to reorganize between Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Telangana was created wherein it was believed that Andhra and Rayalaseema area was going forward, but Telangana region was going backwards. Grants were not enough and attention was also not given. Same way, Uttarakhand, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand were also not getting the right attention within the state legislative assemblies. However, Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh has proven to us that this principle does not really work if you do not have the right political setup. Because even after becoming states, Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand, even Uttarakhand after the floods, and because it was only based on tourism, until unless you do not have a viable state based on proper fiscal prudence, you cannot basically have a state properly. Chhattisgarh is a tribal area, multiple CMs, too much political imbalance. Jharkhand issue is that it has a lot of mines, but again, political instability. Now, the last principle which has been applied and still going on till today is the principle of national security. Wherein the principle is very straightforward. Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh, UT with legislature, very soon to be a state, and UT without legislature, and the merger of Dadar, Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu merger, which is the latest, are based on administrative and national security considerations. So, Telangana, Jammu and Kashmir, and this whole reorganization was based on the idea of national security. Now, do you understand how phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4? Do not have to learn this. Do not learn. These phase 4 phases of reorganization happened in India. Are we clear? Are we clear? Yes. Now, very important question. With all this reorganization, has all demand ended for new states? And the answer is no. Why no? Because in Uttar Pradesh, there was a consideration to create 4 states: Pashchim Pradesh, Bundelkhand, Purvanchal, and Awadh Pradesh, because the HDI indicators were not good enough. Too big an area. There was demand for this. The center then scrapped it. Vidarbha has been asking to become with Nagpur as capital, saying that regional imbalance is happening. Vidarbha is going backwards while Maharashtra is going forwards. This has been a demand which has been there for a very long time. Further, Saurashtra has been arguing that within Gujarat, it is asking for it. The fact is that they argue that the politics of the state assembly here is not giving enough emphasis on Vidarbha. Same for Saurashtra. That Saurashtra is not getting right representation. The same principle of Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. And the ongoing issue of Gorkha land and Bodo land is also based on the idea that further tribal reorganization can happen. Very simply, if we talk about a question, for example, if the question is reorganization the answer to issues? The question answer is what? If we just keep on reorganizing, it is the right way. The answer is no. Because if you will keep on reorganizing, India will become part millions of pieces itself. Fiscal consideration is very important. It's a burden on the public exchequer. It is a burden on the taxpayer. Further reorganization is not the answer. Better governance is the answer. So please be very clear that you cannot just reorganize everything. Now the second question is, and this is a very ongoing issue which is here, should Delhi become a state? Should Delhi become a full state? What is, I'm going to push a poll to you. Two options. A, yes. B, no. I want you to give me the answer. Delhi has a very interesting case under 292, Article 292. Under state list, it has every jurisdiction except for land, law and order, and police. These 3 are not under it. Only lieutenant governor can do it. Everything else the legislation can do. The answer to this question is 77% totally correct. No. No, why? Because it is the executive capital of India. The government of India should not be asking Kejriwal for land for new ministries. A new parliament should not be stuck because there is a difference between the state and the center. Law and order and police and the security of our prime minister and president should be not in the hands of the state government. All capitals are always under center, and that should be the consideration generally. So very simply, statehood demand of Delhi is not to be considered under national security. If all this is clear, we have finished our second module. We go for a break and come back and discuss the third module. Can we do that? First two modules clear, because now we come to an area where the questions don't come. It is interesting, but questions don't come. Okay, first two modules done. Anybody, any issue? And for the students who have been asking me for directive words, for example, these words, I have given you this flowchart. Every directive word is explained here. You can use it generally. Yes, 239A. Yes. It's 292 is Pondicherry. 239A. Very, very good. 239. 292 is Pondicherry. Thank you, Ravi. So this is there for your basic consideration. Seven directive words and what they mean. Washington DC is also under the center. Okay. Can we take a break? Yes. We come back at 5:40 and we will move forward. Sunday there's no class. This is the last class, Sushmita. This is your last class. You will join through part C. I will see you at part C. We'll try to make sure there's no tech issue there. But 40:45, most probably it will go live. See you. Take care. See you in part C. Third, wars, regional imbalance or regional inequality and one party dominance. See you.